Good morning. So, my name is Rajesh. I'm from Juniper. So, today what I'm going to cover is primarily it's a good session to take after the artificial intelligence. So, why I'm saying it is that today what we are talking about when they talk about artificial intelligence or machine learning or whatever we speak, it is primarily we are looking at some automation capabilities, which is the next wave which is coming. Because we heard cloud, we heard SDN. Now the next wave which is coming up is automation. So that is what I wanted to cover in a way that what is that automation is all about? What are the OEMs or the customers are talking about? What automation they want to look at? So these are some factors which we can look at. And also today what is happening is the legacy applications and the cloud applications can actually exist between private and the public data centers, right? So when you look at the public cloud and the private clouds, so you can have your applications in private data center of your own, and you can also host your applications in the public cloud. But the point where it comes is that how the application can be anywhere, users can be anywhere, but the experience has to be the same. When I say experience, there are different kinds of experiences. Like one, with the users uses the applications and get the experience. The second is the security perspective, because the security should be same across the private and the public cloud. I can't have some security defined for my private data center for my application, but the applications I have hosted in public cloud cannot have a different security policy, right? So how I can orchestrate the entire this kind of solutions across is only through automation. So that's what I just want to cover. So before going that, I just wanted to talk about a bit of security, because today, even the automation is coming up in security. Because manual policy and all that is gone, right? Now everyone wants to automate the security process so that you will have actually a good security framework which can be defined for your company, wherein by doing manually it is very difficult. So just a thought process I had just put it here is, due to cybercrime, business loss is around $400 billion, and $4.8 million is the data breach for each company which they lose, and expected is around $3 trillion in 2019 and 2020. So you can see the data breaches happening. Everyone knows, right? Whether it's a financing, whether it's a media, whether it's corporates, everywhere there are data breaches, there are hacking happening and everything. So what I wanted to say is when and not if. That is what the key when we look at security. So when I will be hacked or when my company will have the data breach, other than if, what I should do. So we should be prepared for all these kind of scenarios when we talk about security. So I just want to touch upon is key challenges. What we have seen is today is first is we have to move out of silos. Why I'm saying this is we have a data center, right? You will have a data center, then you will have a WAN network, then you will have a local area network, right? So you will have multiple networks, but you treat them as silos. Why do you have to treat them as silos? If you want to have a one security framework for your organization, then you should have a framework in such a way that I consider the WAN network, the LAN network, the data center, everything as one single network, right? So those silos should be removed out of the organizations. And also, we need to move out of signature-based kind of solutions. Because today, the proactive security or the security for the zero-day attacks or the security which we are not aware of, like those kind of security policies which we can push it to the entire network is very key. After learning it from the feeders, there are a lot of feeders which are there across the globe. So if I can take those feed and then have some analytics on it and push those policies into your networks, right? So, and also, please don't look at a closed systems, because when you go into a closed systems, then you get into a place where you can't scale, you can't do a lot of automation capabilities, you can't have common policies, so don't get into a closed system. And also change in mindset. So once you do all this, there is a change in mindset which you need to look at, right? So that is what I was talking about, moving to an automated security workflow. Because when you are doing a manual workflow, what happens is that there is a lot of errors which are being created by the humans, and also the policies what you define. I can take a challenge, because you go to your organizations and see your security devices. There will be policies which will be some 1,000, 2,000 number of policies, but most of the policies will be overlapping. right? But no one will have this one to remove one of the policies out saying that because he is afraid. He doesn't know whether this policy is used for what, right? So these kind of issues will come up when we look at the manual way of doing all this kind of security solutions. So once we move into automated way, then what happens is that you take the feeds from the threats from the feeds, right? And then you mark the threats at what level you want it. Like it can be 8, 7, 6, 5, right? And then those are automatically converted into your firewall policies. Looking at the threat, what is the threat? What is the policy I have to put into the network so that I can stop the threat, right? So that can be done automatically so that that policy is created and that policy is pushed to your entire network, whether it's a remote offices, remote branches, whether it's your local area network or whether your data center. This is what we talk about automation. If I had to do manually these policies across my branches, across my local area network, across my data center, how difficult it would have been, right? So this is where we talk about, they call it as a one policy enforcement point in your whole organization for any kind of networks you run. So this is what it is. So this is what we are talking about. So once we need to have an open platform interface when we come up with networks and when we need to have automation capabilities. Once we have an open platform interface, then you can have any network, you can have any vendor's devices, and you can have any hosted in any cloud. It can be AWS, it can be NetMagic, anywhere you host your applications. But you will have one common interface to orchestrate your entire configuration, policies, everything. So this is what we talk about. So this is what I was talking about, moving to one cohesive infrastructure. Whether it's a cloud, public cloud, whether it's a data center, whether it's your private WAN, or it can be a public WAN, it can be a campus network, it can be a branch remote network. See, you have so many networks in your organization, but you will have multiple management systems to manage each and every as a silo, right? You will have a WAN network to be managed as one management system. You will have a LAN network or a campus network to manage one management system. You will have a data center as one, and you will have a public cloud to be managed as another. You look at it, there is no one framework where you can define so that it apply to any kind of networks in the organization. So that is where we talk about automation. That is where we talk about open platform interface. So this is what we are talking about, an open platform which can be secure, which it can see. See means it can have a lot of analytics. If you have heard of telemetry, so telemetry is the thing which is coming into the networks where you can know the health of the network, how my network is, how healthy it is. So those kind of C kind of capabilities which will be available, and then you can orchestrate and you can connect it, right? So that is what we call it as a software-defined secure network. So everything is becoming software-defined today. People talk about software-defined LAN, they talk about software-defined secure networks, they talk about software-defined data centers. And also they are talking about SD-WAN, software-defined wide area networks, right? Everything is software-defined today. So when I talk about software-defined secure networks, this is what we talk about. You can have threat intelligence coming from different feeders across the globe, and then you can have an automated and adaptive enforcement. That means to say that your network here, it automatically there will be one single policy enforcement point which will enforce those policies across the branch, WAN, LAN, data center, everything. So you don't have to define any policies. You don't have to have overlap policies. It is dynamically done by itself. Okay, so this is what it is. Unified policy, it can be a virtualization, it can be a containers, or it can be a public cloud, or it can be your own private data center. Doesn't matter. Okay, so this is what I just wanted to put, what it will happen. For example, if you have a development, staging, and production, then you will have different policies to be defined for every component. But if you look at this, there is one policy which you can define and can be applied to any kind of this one, whether it can be a development, it can be a production, it can be engineering, it can be finance. So you will have a single policy framework to be done. This is what the customers are looking for. This is what everyone is looking at in terms of the automation perspective. So more coming deeper down, it is multiple enforcement points. So That's what I was talking about. It can be a firewall, it can be a host-based firewall, it can be a L4 to L7 firewalls, it can be a bare metal server, it can be a virtualization, it can be a public cloud. If you look at it, there will be one policy framework and there will be one enforcement point where you will use for your entire network to push all those policies, configuration, everything. So it is so easy because when you get all the analytics back, the telemetry back, it is so easy to identify what is a problem in your network. It is not in silos, it is overall, right? It is complete. So you will exactly know where the problems are. Otherwise, how will you find out? Because you will find out only in the wide area network, or you will find out only in the campus network, or you will find out only in the data center. But can you actually map them together and say, this is what my problems in the network? No, you can't do it. So you have SIM which does the correlation, but the correlation is done more from the syslog and all that. But that is also, but telemetry is the one which pushes, the devices will push their content back to the central location. That is the difference. So the telemetry gives you all these capabilities. So this is what it is, right? So what we are talking about is a one open platform. If you have this kind of one open platform, what you can do is you can do all this. You can actually start from scratch and do the automation completely. You can build, you can config, see you can build the entire data center, or you can build the entire wide area network, or you can build entire your campus network, right? And then you can have the policies being defined, right? You can also connect to the public cloud. Then you can build pods, you know, the pods in data center. Then you can have apply policies, network policies across the entire network, right? Then you can apply, manage user connections, right? Whether they have to go to public cloud, whether they have to be in private cloud, or whether they have to interact between public, lateral, north, south, whatever those kind of connections are required, you can connect, you can do it. And then finally, you can monitor it by using analytics. See, this is a single platform where you start from scratch, you build your network, you configure your network, you define a framework of policies which can be applied across your network, and then you can build the connections between private cloud, public cloud, all those, and then finally you can manage it and monitor it and take care of the network completely. So there are different bots, health bot is there, peer bot is there. There are a lot of automation tools which are available today to make this life simple when you have a big networks or data centers or wide area networks. So this is one. See how good it is. This security policy flow. Can you tell me that how many connections are talking between one web server to the another web server? You can easily find out. What web server is talking to the DB server, right? And for a front end is talking to the another front end. So you know which server is talking to which server. If you find that this server should not talk to this server, then you will have a pictorial view that why this is talking, and you can apply a policy saying that this web server should not talk to this DB server, right? This is what you get it in terms of the policies. Then you can define those policies, and you see the pictorial view where you will get everything, how the connections are made, how these web servers are talking to other web servers, how the DB server is talking to rest of the web servers, how the front end is talking to the back end. So what is the lateral connections, what is the north-south connections, everything is available for you, and you can have a view of it, and you can build a framework how to have my data center connectivity, connections between private, public, all those capabilities. So this is what is the key when we talk about automation. You can never get this kind of scenarios if you are doing it manually. You have to go and see how many TCP connections are open, how many telnet sessions are open, right? And then you will identify, okay, this has been congested, or this server has a lot of connections, right? But it is so simple. So I talked about the automation, I talked about a single platform interface which you can use it for your entire organization's networks. But what is the solution what we have, right? The solution from Juniper is known as Contrail. So the Contrail is a software piece which sits in one central location of your organization and can provide all the capabilities what I spoke earlier. So whether you can build a networking using we call it something known as a Contrail Networking. It is a subsystem inside the Contrail. So you can build you can build from scratch the data center network, or a WAN network, or a campus network. Then you can have Contrail Security. The Contrail Security is what I talked about, SDSL. zero trust policy, SDSN, where you can have zero-day attacks, policies being pushed and all that. Then you have Contrail Fabric Manager, where you can do in the data center all the overlay connectivity like EVPN, VXLAN, all the overlay technologies which requires connectivity. That is very difficult. Okay, overlay topology at the underlay is very difficult to define. So these kind of connectivity you can provide. Then the enterprise data center completely, whether it is integration with the virtualization, whether it's a VMware, whether it's an OpenStack, right? You can have an integration with them. Then you can have an enterprise multi-cloud. That means you can have one more subsystem which can also talk to multi-cloud like AWS or NetMagic or whatever, and have the same policies being pushed what you're pushing in your private data center or in your network. So this is one piece which is known as Contrail, which gives you an open platform interface to completely automate your network. So there is analytics, we call it as AppFormix. So in the AppFormix, you have telemetry which is going directly into this. This is known as a collector, okay, which will have an AI and machine learning. So both is available in this, and it has the full visibility, and it will do a lot of analysis in terms of your network perspective. So we have come up with a lot of bots, like we have come up with health bots, we have come up with peer bots. So these bots are used so that we will know exactly the health of the network. So Juniper is also talking about innovations in future, which is known as self-driven networks. That means the network has to drive by itself. There should not be any human intervention. That means, like, I set up the network, after that it should understand by AI and machine learning that these are the issues, and it has to rectify by itself. Not only identifying the issues, but rectifying it by itself is known as self-driven networks. That is the next wave which will come in the industry, where people talk about a network which is driven by itself without any human intervention. So this is what the capabilities this AppFormix will give you in terms of moving towards self-driven networks. Okay, so this is what it is. So I just started with this. So you have a secure, which is known as SDSN solution. You have C, which is analytics using AppFormix. You have orchestration, which is a Contrail, and you have the connect, same, the subsystems of Contrail. So totally you have one platform interface which can give you multi-cloud, multi-networks, everything as a single platform for management and configuration and maintenance. So this is what it is. So consistent intent-driven policy. So there is one policy to be pushed. There is multiple enforcement points in your networks which can be pushed, and there is one application policy config for flow visualization. So you can have a complete flow visualization of your network, completely what is happening in your network. So in summary, I just wanted to say that this is a fantastic automation tool which has been innovated by Juniper. And then it is really good when you look at your networks. You think of it that you have so many networks which are silos, and you are managing it separately, and you are not aware what is happening in your entire framework of the networks what you have built. And also you don't know how these policies are working, what should my framework be. All those capabilities can be achieved by using these kind of automation capabilities and automation tools. So this is what I wanted to present. Thank you so much. Anything I can take.
Thank you, Mr. Rajesh.